you're mentoring someone.
Right.
All right, so yeah, so they introduced 5 mechanics for the 5 guilds. The first one was Convoke, which was Selesnya, which is white-green. This one is Mentor for Boros, which is red-white. I'm not in love with this mechanic. Yo, Quarter Ghost, what up?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I skipped past everything. I can't use the soundboard when we're watching. You can put a +1/+1 counter on attacking creature with less power. I don't know. It depends. The spoiler cards I saw, the mentor creatures don't have much power. And it's not less than or equal to power. It's just power. Sorry, I've been digging this box. I did find 1 forest left, Kiwi. I'm sorry, I don't think you get a choice. Because it's really hard to find the forests. I must have played a lot of green and they went down or something. I don't know. We'll get to this forest. Yeah, there is a card like that. I don't know. It's okay. It's a fine mechanic. It's certainly creature-based. And I need to see some better creatures to see how good this is.
With Mentor attacks, it can give another attacking creature with lesser power +1/+1 counter. So it's like you're helping out you're mentoring someone.
Right, so if a 3/1 attacked with a 2/2, then the attacking 2/2 would get a +1/+1 counter, making it a 3/3. So as I said earlier about the guilds kind of,
it is nice the
sticking to
counter goes on
themselves more.
like before
This
they
is the
attack.
Boros really trying to, teach up the younger recruits, the younger soldiers to get them into fighting strength.
And it's still a very aggressive mechanic that keeps you wanting to attack and go,
Yeah,
go, go.
it only works when attacking. So so if you're playing Boros, you want to attack. If you're blocking, you're probably not winning that game.
All right, let's move on to the Dimir mechanic. What do we have here, Andrew?
So the Dimir mechanic is called Surveil. In our internal testing, we called it Graveyard Scribe. But essentially what it is it's Scribe, but instead of putting the card on the bottom of your library, you can put it on your graveyard. And this is really to signify the Dimir kind of looking at everybody while there's a lot of turmoil going on. So you're definitely going to see the Dimir spies everywhere in Guilds of Ravnica. But Melissa, how...
So this is like exactly somewhere between Scry and Explore. Explore is probably not strictly better, but it's almost strictly better because of the fact that you can sometimes draw a card. But you can't really bin the land if you don't want it. So, yeah, it's sketchy. But so basically it's like Scribe, but instead of putting it on the bottom of your deck, you put it in your graveyard. Lipo, what is up? You miss Convoke and you miss Mentor. We're now in Surveil. And I'm liking the sound of these mechanics, man. I like playing with graveyards, and you can quote me on that.
How does Surveil kind of synergize with other cards?
All right, so Surveil is a card filtering mechanic, so it kind of like, as a Dimir player, it lets you feel kind of clever. It's like, all right, let me plan out my next few turns. Also, since the card's going into your graveyard instead of on the bottom of your library, it enables some graveyard synergies that you might see.
Now, Andrew, before the show, we were talking a little bit about this mechanic's similarity to Scry. Can you talk a little bit about why you do these mechanics and return mechanics like Invoke in a set like this that keeps the complexity low?
Right.
There's
so
also
in
cards...
Guilds of Ravnica and most Ravnica
you'll
sets,
see.
we split up the guilds per set. So in Guilds of Ravnica, there are 5 different guilds, and given that there's 5 guilds, there has to be 5
The other 2 mechanics
so
next
generally, we want to
work well with Surveil.
pare down the complexity of a mechanic so that more players can understand the entirety of the set as a whole. Because, there's Izzet, there's Golgari, there's Dimir, there's Boros, there's Selesnya. You have to remember all these mechanics. So the easier the mechanics are to understand, the less complexity there is as a whole.
Okay. So Surveil works pretty well with the next 2 mechanics that we're going to talk about.
That's what I said.
It might. The Is It mechanic. This one's my favorite because, of course, it is.
Because it's Is It.
Because it is It.
Who doesn't love Is It?
Everyone loves Is It.
I'll let you do the is it puns. It's fine.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with Melissa? What do we have from Is It?
All right, so for Is It, we have Jumpstart. So this is a mechanic that allows you to play instants and sorceries with Jumpstart from your graveyard by discarding a card. So it's kind of like Flashback. It's you may play this card from your graveyard if you discard a card as an additional cost, and the Jumpstart card gets removed. So it's like a way to cast a lot of, like a flurry of spells and like have some really cool synergies, but playing a lot of spells in one turn and stuff like that.
Whew. I mean, Surveil plus this just screams Search for his Kanta being just broken. Just broken. You can flashback any spell you want by discarding a card. It's not necessarily card advantage because you have to discard. But boy, that seems pretty good for frickin' Search for his Kanta. We'll be flipping those bad boys in seconds. And you know what that means? Control. Because Search for his Kanta doesn't really work with aggro.
Okay. And why this mechanic, Andrew?
I do like the mechanic.
Well, as I said, Ravnica's kind of in turmoil
Search
right
is just
now,
so broken.
and,
Maybe they'll ban
the
it.
Is It are just always experimenting.
Yeah.
That's just what they do, right?
Just all the time.
That's all
Right.
they do.
Okay. And so how does this one play well with Surveil?
So you can definitely cast Jumpstart cards out of your graveyard. So when you are surveilling and looking at these cards on the top of your library, you can just put them into your graveyard as extra fuel and gas for you.
Okay. So are these on spells? They aren't on creatures or anything like that,
They're
right?
only on spells.
Only
yeah.
on spells. Okay, so they have a very spell-focused mechanic.
And they can be on instants and sorceries too.
Okay, great. And then let's look at our fifth mechanic. This is for the Golgari. Golgari fans out there, get ready. Undergrowth. Undergrowth is the Golgari. It's not really a mechanic, it's more of a keyword, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So Undergrowth, it gives you a bonus for the number of creatures you have in your graveyard. So it's like a scaling reward. The more creatures you have in your graveyard, the stronger your Undergrowth card is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the coolest things about it is how well it works with other mechanics in the set. So when you surveil, you can just dump creatures into your graveyard to fuel your Undergrowth. And like even Jumpstart, you cast your Jumpstart card, discard your creature, and then now your Undergrowth gets better.
Okay.
This is okay. This is fine. It's a little Tarmogoyfy. It's a little, there's a way to abuse a lot of things. Yep. I also think Stitcher's Supplier is going to be perhaps just all over the place. If we're that interested in putting creatures in our graveyard or spells, Stitcher's Supplier seems great. We're going to lose Minister of Inquiries, and we lose GPG. But if this graveyard stuff is good enough, like you can easily be Sultai with Surveil and Undergrowth and rock Stitcher's Supplier. Maybe you go Muldrotha. I don't know if Muldrotha will be good enough or not. Muldrotha. You could also play Jund. Stitcher Supplier in that case would be also good for just pitching spells. I like it, man. I like these graveyard synergies. So that's all 5. Convoke, white, green. Mentor, white, red. Surveil, blue, black. Jumpstart, black, blue, red. And Undergrowth, black, green. Muldrotha just still dies to Baraska's Contempt, and that card isn't going anywhere.
The Golgari are always, they're just counting the dead. But especially right now in a turmoil-heavy Ravnica, the Golgari are, they're counting them up. They're making sure they have enough resources for the impending conflict.
Yeah, and this mechanic's a little bit different than the others, and there's not actual rules behind Undergrowth. Undergrowth is just kind of a signifier that says, count the number of creatures in your graveyard, and then you'll do something.
something awesome.
That something is different
Yep.
depending on. Yep, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Which of these mechanics is your favorite?